All right, we are live. We are live. Just gotta wait for so I could see it. All right, now we're gonna record here. So 3, 2, 1, welcome. Okay, another episode of Things Which I Know About Money. I'm your host, Camille Smith, and it is episode 53. Whoa! And it is Financial Literacy Month. So what not to bring on someone that I met randomly. We'll talk about that just now. About financial literacy and well-being of mental health and financial health as well. And I have a lovely guest. Should I say SoJay today?
Yeah, we could go with SoJay.
Okay, hello, SoJay. Hello. So I'm going to tell you guys a story. I always have a story.
Life is about stories.
Right? So what, was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago?
End of October. Yeah.
End of October, thank you. So Eaton Center had the Black-owned, I want to say it right, Black-owned Toronto Marketplace. Mm-hmm. So I was told about it. They said come true at this time. I was a little on the late side, but I was like, it's okay. I'm here to support, right? But it just so happened that there was technical difficulties. So they were, they had to stretch out the time when they were going to do their grand opening. So I was like, well, I'm here. I'll just stay. And then I met a lovely lady, SoJay, that was just right there. And the one thing I like about you is how you ask people, like, so what do you do? I was like, oh, that elevator pitch. And you're just like, man, there's like at times you have to remember the elevator pitch. But I thought because we were all there for a purpose, I was just like, well, I don't have anything in the store, but I was there supporting. But you have a lovely item.
Oh, you got a copy.
I did.
That you got a copy. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to be enjoying it this week and I'm not the best artist, but I'm gonna try a thing. But I really love it.
Thank you. That's the great thing about coloring. You don't need to. That's what we do. The illustrator, because I'm not an artist either, right? I'm not the illustrator. My brother is. And for that book, I have 2 other illustrators as well. They do all of the hard work, right? They do they draw all the out. So you just be creative and do you through the pencil crayons or the crayons or the markers and color in the lines, color outside of the lines. Just it's focus, it's mindfulness. That's all you have to focus on.
So that's the secret to it, huh?
You don't have to be good. You don't have to be good.
Yeah. Oh man. So I just like how you were able, and you were very I liked your energy, and it was just able, like, anyone that passed us, you were just like, so what do you do? What's in there? And all that stuff. And I was like, man, I need to learn to start engaging more with people. Like, I feel like I'm an extrovert, but at the beginning, I just like a little shy, and I just got to feel out the energy and all that good stuff. So I appreciate being here. And tell us about yourself, SoJay. Who is SoJay?
I am a creative. first and foremost. And so my creativity permeates into everything that I do. I am a financial professional, licensed financial professional, more so coach, I would say. And then I'm also a youth worker, child and youth worker, or CYC, child and youth counselor, author of the coloring book that you so graciously purchased and showed on screen, and singer, songwriter. So I have, music out there. And so how I tie all of those things together, and of course, entrepreneur, investor, those things kind of fall into the financial literacy and financial wellness piece. And how I tie all those things together is through mental health and mental wellness. And how, your finance affects your mental wellness, as well as the other way around. Your mental wellness can affect your finance, and being mindful and being proactive about your mental health. That's the coloring piece. And then I also tied financial literacy into the second coloring book, which is Mindset Money Matters. And of course, being a youth counselor, I would support young people from kindergarten all the way to, late 20s. So, a CY, or child and youth counselor, doesn't really tap into the age range that I was supporting. And that's also, mental wellness, mental health, bullying, self-esteem, just your overall your sense of self, right? That's what you're usually helping to support and nurture and grow when you're working with people. So you can see all of the connections, and when you're talking about young people and money as well too. So I'm able to kind of string everything together with the social networking and social support and mental health piece through the finance and the mindfulness and self-care and all of those things. Yeah. So that's me. And so if you want to just kind of encapsulate all of that, I just really want to positively impact the lives of others. And that's the best way that I can, with all of my offerings, to offer everything that I have to offer to positively impact other people's lives. And then in so making their lives more enriched. And of course, by default, makes my life more enriched. And I want to leave people better than how, I met them. If that's give them some type of nugget, some piece of information, something that they could utilize that they may or may not have, or may not have known before. And that's it.
And I love how you intertwine a lot of aspects together, especially with like mental health. It is true, when our mental health isn't as solid or stable, it does affect our pockets, because how can you be able to do anything if you're not, I shouldn't say that one. I was gonna say all there, but that's not the right word. Like, you're not stable enough to actually go out and push yourself to go to work or to make money and stuff. So how is that possible? So it's very important to be able to align those certain things, so you're able to push forward and be a better person.
Be your best self. Yeah, absolutely. And you could we could be very frank about it. Some people have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning because of their brains racing and, acting as their worst enemy. So the one of the things I love to highlight is the difference between mental illness and mental health, because mental health is, that's your everyday, right? Every day, like, you're operating in a state of mental wellness and mental health, and you want to stay there. So you want to be proactive about your mental health and mental wellness. Mental illness is when you have a diagnosis, or you might be on, well, when you have a diagnosis, and however you're treating that diagnosis, you might have a practitioner or so on and so forth. And like, you know, schizophrenia or one of those diagnoses.
Yes.
And so there's a difference, because when we hear mental health, sometimes we automatically think somebody is unwell. But no, we're talking about being proactive about that, and how that ties into finance, your financials, your personal finance and family finance and business finance and all of those things. It can take a toll on your mental health, right?
Yeah.
So
Especially when you feel overwhelmed.
taking care of yourself in those spaces.
Yeah. And also I was gonna ask, because you have them all combined, were you first youth, oh, I don't want to say it wrong. Were you
Yes.
first in the youth and child services before getting steering into finances, or
Yeah,
the financial
absolutely.
path? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I became a child and youth counselor in 2013, I think it was 2013. Well, I had always been, but I went back to school and got my credentials as a child and youth counselor in 2013, and then started working with the Peel School Board. And I got introduced to finance through the platform of World Financial Group in 2018, 2017, 2018, and got licensed. And then light bulbs, like when I got introduced to some of the concepts and things that for myself, I didn't have any frame of reference for, and that bothered me. That bothered me a lot, because I've been living my entire life without knowing these, you know, things like about the focus on interest rates and how life insurance is so important. And then I got a little bit upset. I'm like, why is this not something that's being taught in, you know, we should start teaching personal finance and how we can become financially secure, instead of going, like, we're actually taught to go into debt. That's what we're taught to do and that's what we're kind of, you know, on a micro level, I guess, like you talk about, or just subtly, it's kind of this like subtle, oh yeah, this is okay, this is just take this credit card. And
as soon as you get into university.
and it's just kind of like status quo. This is what you do, you know, you go into debt, and there's good debt, there's bad debt, but then there's ways to avoid some of the pitfalls, and we don't teach that. And like I said, in fact, we encourage the latter. So
yeah. And then it's also like Andre, he would mostly say, when it comes to debt, you need to learn how to leverage. And most times we don't even learn how to leverage. Like, some people are like, leverage, you're like, yeah, it's when you're utilizing the debt that you have to get more wealth. And once you learn that stuff, then
that's how people buy houses with no money down, or you end up getting a car and or starting a business without having, you know, a whole lot of money in your bank account. It's leveraging debt. And you think about it, you know, money is virtual. It's not real, you know? So when you're learning how to leverage, you know, interest rates and debt and good debt, bad debt, credit, and all of those things, then it takes you into a whole other realm of how to create your own wealth, create money, really, because you are the money. So you're creating, like, you're the conduit for its creation. And then also how you're able to have your money work for you. Because at the end of the day, it's a tool. Just like you brush your teeth every morning. Yeah, your toothbrush is a tool.
And I bet they didn't teach you that. Yeah. I bet they didn't teach you that, like with the child and youth, being a child and youth counselor. They don't, like, it's, and the joke is, I have gone to World Financial Group stuff, conferences and webinars. And also because I was in finance at school, it's great to help people don't remember the things that they learn, especially if you were in personal finance. They don't really remember this stuff. So like when I was introduced to the conferences and they were talking about Rule 72, I was like, I remember this. I remember all this stuff. And it's like, what do we do with the community for them to learn these type of things? Because when it comes to our community, we are very behind with financial literacy. So that's like why I'm like always pushing. I was like, we have to learn this stuff because we're so far behind. And what can we do to actually, like, you know, have people interested in it and all that stuff? And I know it's like it takes one person at a time, but how do you do it when it comes to like your community or your circle that you're around and all that good stuff?
Well, it's a challenging thing because at the end of the day, you know, we can't force people to do something that they're not ready to do. So it's really, how do you make people ready to accept the information? And I think it's really about just talking, like having the conversations, and being very like transparent about, you know, money, adding money into our lives, into the narrative of our lives, because, you know, you leave your house and right away you're spending money because you're you know, if you're in a car, you're burning gas, you're taking transportation. And if you're going on a trip or you're going to the grocery store, like whatever it is that you're doing, it's like, oh, I went to, like a friend of mine just came back from Tanzania. It's like, nice. Right? And I'm like, that beautiful trip on safari, they're eating the food, they're, you know, experiencing the culture. And how much did that trip cost? You know, like we don't talk about, okay, what was it for the flight? What was it for hotel? What was it? And then we're taught that it's rude to ask. It's like, no. So I think that we need to have more conversations where we're just being very transparent about the money narrative of our lives. And then it becomes less taboo. And you know, then you're more free, it frees people up to talk about it. And it's a shift of mindset. Because at the end of the day, if your mindset isn't there to have those conversations, and you think that, you know, it's my business and I'm not going to share my business with nobody, and I'm not going to talk about that, and I'll go to a bank and sit down with some stranger and who, you know, who's not working in your best interest, they're working in the bank's best interest, but you're very free. We've been programmed and taught that these are the things that we do and that these things are safe and that they're okay, when really it's just a misconception. It's just a fallacy, like a fake sense of security. A fake sense of security. And so if we can you know, have a shift of mindset and recognize that there's just maybe a different way to do things, you know, to just start with that thought and then let that explode into other things on top of just introducing the money narrative into our stories and our existence and everything that we do. Yeah.
I like what you mentioned, that when it comes to having those uncomfortable conversations, because there's the amount of times I've tried to have conversations like that with my parents, or tried to have conversations with loved ones or friends that know what I'm doing as well, and they're like, "Yo, don't worry about my money." I'm like, okay. Okay, I'm just here to help. And then I would actually hear them say, "Oh, you know, the bank just said the same thing you said." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, really?" Well, at least, you know, like if you hear it from two people, then you know what like both people are saying is true. So they take the initiative to want to reprogram their mind about how money works and all that great stuff, and keep consistent.
And that's part of the when I talk about, you know, money and mental health, that's part of it too, is mindset and the blocks that we put up and have put up and that are, you know, generational too. Yes. You know, this is how our parents did it. This is like our grandparents, you know, and then we're kind of like myself and then yourself, we're those generations where we're just starting to fall out of things that were passed down from, quite frankly, centuries. Yeah, colonization, and it's just like to keep us in a certain box, you know, in a certain social economic status and all of that stuff. And so we're starting to just kind of unpack some of the trauma, some of the generational trauma. And so when people kind of like, oh, you know, don't worry, don't watch my pocketbook, you know, don't watch what I'm doing. You do your thing. You know, I hope you're successful. It's like, how am I supposed to be successful without the support of my friends and family? You know, and how am I going to go and take care of my financial wellness and my financial independence, and then have the people closest to me not be a part of that? But unfortunately, the psychology that's around that is like the people that are close to us are usually the last or the most reluctant, because they see us in a certain way. You know, they put us in this like frame, and then when you're trying to burst out of and grow and grow, and they want to keep you here. This is how I know you. This is what you've always been to me. You're younger than me, so how are you going to be talking to me about money? And it's not even that's what they say out loud. That's just kind of like the stuff that's playing in their brain. And that's part of the mental health. That's part of the mental well-being. That's part of the mindset, the money mindset, your relationship with money. All of those things fall into that. And that's why I love talking about this stuff so much, because it helps to kind of unpack some of the reasons why, you know, you're stuck. Why wouldn't you talk to somebody who's younger than you about money? What is that about to you? Oh, well, when I was younger, you know, my parents, you know, didn't have those conversations with me. And I learned that those are big people conversations, and, you know, stuff like that, big people things. And no fault to our, our parents or our parents or our ancestors or whatever. It's like, you know, they did the best that they could at that time, in that time, with what they were dealing with and experiencing, and how they walked through spaces and the systems that were at play. But now we, you know, that whole, be cliche a little bit, but, you know, we know better. So we have to absolutely do better. In this day and age where you have like a power computer in your hand, our phones, you know, like they can do almost anything. I've heard, because I believe it, you know, I have a little bit of an IT background, and I remember what computers were like when I was growing up versus what they're like now. And like what we hold in our hands and our phones are like more powerful than some of the systems they use to send, you know, astronauts into outer space. So we have, when it comes to our own, there's no reason to not kind of do something different, do something new. You can keep doing what you've always been doing, but then also think about, open yourself up to something that you haven't done before, which can really, really start with sitting down with a financial professional. Because
it's a coach, advisor, and anyone that you know that has like knowledge in this stuff and actually is looking for the best interest in yourself. Yeah, because obviously there's people that they're just trying to make a quick buck, but if you actually take the time to build a relationship and everything, you'll get to understand that, oh, SoJay is actually really looking out for the best of me. Okay. Like, oh, that's what Camille was saying and all that stuff. Like, like and I feel like when I heard you like that one time, I was just like, okay, she gets it. Like, she gets it. Yes. And I love like, once again, I love your, I want to say that your mantra of well-being, like mental well-being and financial well-being comes into one. And it's like, what are the best, what is like the best advice you can give someone that's trying to figure out things? Because this world is interesting, I'll say. And I know there's a lot of folks that they're trying to stay sane or just try to stay afloat, and they're just like, I just don't know what to do. Like, is there any suggestions like you have with trying to align both of them together?
Aligning mental wellness and financial wellness?
Yeah.
Well, understanding that they both exist in the same space at the same time is one, because sometimes we like the connection isn't something that I created, it just is, it exists, and I'm highlighting that it exists. So that would be the first thing, is recognizing that they are intertwined, and that's a fact. The other thing is to again have like talk, like we talk, therapy, you talk, you need to work out a disagreement. It's to have a conversation. So this is no different. We want to have those conversations and start feeling more comfortable. And you got to push yourself out of your norm and out of what you're used to have some of those conversations, and then thinking and watching your response when somebody asks a question that, you might have thought was like, oh, that's none of their business. It's like, well, maybe maybe it could help with it could help them, something as simple as actually I was at the gym, and a gentleman was telling me about some cryptocurrency program or system that he's involved in, and he said to me, this is a 51-year-old Jamaican man.
Boy.
Yes, 51-year-old Jamaican man, and he works with the Peel School Board as well. And he said that if he keeps on the track that he's going, that he would be able to he's already replaced his income and his pension with what he's done in cryptocurrency in months, under 6 months. And that's more than he's made in the full, all 30 something years of his life as an employee. Right. And so when he said that to me, I was like, well, what was your initial investment?
Yeah.
And then there was somebody else there, and they're like, don't ask the man that. And I'm like,
but why not?
Exactly. And he's like, well, that's rude. I go, we need to change that. We need to change that narrative, and then for him to this other person to say it, now it becomes awkward because you made the comment. But if you hadn't said anything and he would have just looked at me, I was like, oh, what was your initial investment? And then he was about to say it when this other person was like, oh, don't ask the man that. And then I looked at him, I go, are you offended by my question? And he's like, no, not at all. And then he said he only started with $1,000. But that's a perfect example right there, right? And so he had to shift his mindset, and he had a conversation with me about that. Said, it took me time to realize, but he was watching a video. So you got to be, this is another thing to answer your question. You have to watch what you're watching, what you're taking in, social media, on your phone, on your computer, what you're watching on TV is like the things that are feeding your brain. Because for this man, he watched this one video. I can't remember who it was that he watched, but the person said, like, in order for you to get ahead, you're not going to be able to do so working for somebody else. Yeah. There's no paycheck. You can't keep trading your hours your time for money, because there's a limitation. It's 24 hours in a day. 8 of them we sleep. Then there's family time. There's so many, right? So there's really only 12 hours in the day, because you're not really doing anything productive in the other 12 hours of the day. Depending, if you're working for yourself, maybe you are, but if you have a job. And so when he heard that, it was like, ding. And then, yeah. And then that kind of opened the floodgates for him to start exploring other areas, having multiple streams of income. What does that look like? Cryptocurrency, investing, life insurance, because life insurance can be used as a living benefit. You don't have to be dead for anybody to benefit from your life insurance. You can benefit from it while you're alive. And then having a financial professional. I always look at it as who's sitting at your table, your table of life, because we have our practitioners, our doctors. We might have a chiropractor or a massage therapist. You have, you went and got your nails done today. You might have an esthetician that you go to. It's your go-to person, so we have a lawyer. You have your lawyer, you have your doctor, you have your massage therapist, you have the pharmacist that you like to go to. We have all of these people that are like our counsel for our lives. But when it comes to our finances, who is that?
Yeah. Like you have, like most times you have like an accountant, but like they only go to them like once a year.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I was supposed to pay attention to what you said. Like, yes.
And then accountants, they focus, they specialize in a certain area. Whereas if you're sitting down with a financial professional that is wanting to work in your best interest, it should be like a counseling session. And that's why sometimes I refer to myself as a financial coach, is because you really got to kind of peel back the onion of your finance to recognize where you're at, to take a snapshot of where you are currently on all levels. So that means, what do you spend at Starbucks every day, or every other day? What Netflix, and like, what do you have on your subscription? Like, because all of those little things, they make a difference, and then they add up, and then they help you once you have like a very clear picture of what your financial life actually looks like. Then you can start to say, okay, I can tweak this here. I can stop doing this here, and then put that money somewhere else and start really building and working to change whatever you would like to see changed in your life.
And also what you said with what are you feeding your mind as well, right? Yeah. That's so important. Like I've like, balance is okay. It's okay to have your guilty pleasure and all that stuff. Like I listen to a podcast that makes me laugh and stuff, right? But like, I'm gonna say 80% of the time, I'm like listening to stuff that will actually help me grow, like as a person in my career. And also just every day you're learning, right? Every day is a learning lesson. And it's either you're going to learn about the newest TikTok dance, or you're going to learn about how you can get another stream of income. Right. And I mean,
yeah, the time goes by anyways, right? The time is going by anyways. So it's like, how are you utilizing that time? And we've been we're so set in our, let's watch this, binge watch Netflix or do whatever. I think that you have to be actually very intentional about changing the algorithms on your social media to feed you. For me, it's positive. It's positive, like positive affirmations. I write them. I ingest them. I take them in. I see something that really resonates with me, and then I'll reshare it. So words are very powerful, right? So those affirmations, and you're literally programming or reprogramming your brain. You have to recognize how important it is to, like you said, to take in positive things and positive messages and tips and tricks about finance and mental health and wellness and just, you know, being your best person, being your best self, and why that's like, unless you're just not interested in it, like, then I don't know, because like living life to the fullest, that's what I think the creator intended, you know, for us to use our gifts and to nurture our gifts and to find our gifts and then to utilize them and put it out there in the world to be utilized and shared. So when talking about money, because I hear it all the time, it's like, you talk about money all the time, you know, it's not, life isn't all about money, and yeah, absolutely, but money, it gives you options.
Exactly.
It gives you options, and it helps you to live the type of life that you would like, that you want to live or would like to live. And so it's not everything, but it's not evil, that's for sure, because
it's a tool, like you mentioned before. It's a tool.
Yes, definitely a tool. Just like you can't build a house without a hammer, you cannot build your life without
some
finance.
Money. Finances and all that good stuff. And but we aren't dogging people that binge watch like shows. You like the other day I did binge watch You, but like I said, 80% of the time I'm on stuff that is helping me grow and stuff. So if you want to do, you know, your 1-2 show, cool. But what else are you reading or learning to empower your mind? And also the positive affirmations. I need to get that more into my system because we've experienced the same thing this year. And it is important to talk about, like, to remind yourself that you are loved, you to just focus on being happy with what you have and also what you have the potential of doing and all that good stuff. So I do have to start doing more positive affirmations, and I do send it out mostly on my social media. And then there's times people are like, Camille, I really needed that. I was like, hey, I shared it because it hit me. So I'm glad I was able to share it so it would have a positive impact on you, or just to have a different realization, right?
Yeah. And doesn't that feel good when somebody lets you know that you helped them?
Yes, that's the best feeling. Like, yeah. It's just like people saying like, Camille, the reason why I have this much saved is because of you. I'm like, stop it. You're making me blush. But also we have to remember that when it comes to learning about personal finance, we also have mistakes, right? So what was your biggest mistake that you had with personal finance that you actually learned from it afterwards?
I would say like just debt, around debt. Like I got to a place where I was in a lot of it, and then so there was the one side where I was in a lot of debt, and I guess that's relative, right? That, you know, my idea of a lot of debt and somebody else's idea of a lot of debt would be different.
True.
Just being in a lot of debt that I was very uncomfortable with, to the point where I was able to rectify that, and now I currently have a fear of being in debt, right? And that's something now. So it's like both ends of the spectrum, right? Being in it and then being out of it and being fearful of going back into it. And again, I'm just going to highlight the mindset and the mental health piece there, is because now because you, in order to really take it to the next level, as we said earlier, you need to leverage debt. You need to leverage that. And if I'm afraid to even get into it, then that's gonna be a blocker for me, right?
Yeah. So you had to reprogram yourself with that too, because we've when you're on that other spectrum of being in debt and it was such a hindrance to you, and then you're finally out of it, you're like, I can't get back into it.
I go back to it, yeah.
If I get back in,
That's
I'm just gonna, but at least this time you have the discipline and the
yes.
knowledge. So
Mhm.
you're like, so once you're at that wall, but you're like, hold on. I have the skills to get out of this and actually use it for a positive aspect. So you're good. You know, you don't even have to worry about it as much. And emotions, we're human, you know?
Yes.
Emotions.
Yes. Yeah. Emotions, your feelings, all of those things, they're all part of, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's all part of that mental health piece. And so another tidbit, you know, with, you know, how to leverage that is pushing through it. It's like, you know, you come and you got a block, and me, I'm a financial professional. What would I tell somebody else? I tell them, do it. I tell them, go for it. And I'm like, okay, so I got to tell myself that and then push through. It's like, you know, you fall off the horse, you got to get back up and you got to ride it again. And that's what we know is what needs to be done whenever we come to an obstacle. In most cases, it's like you got to push through it and you got to find a way around it, or over it, under it, and just to get through it. And so yeah, I'm using myself as an example. So even though I'm pretty tough on people and be like, yo, you just got to do it. You can't just take action. You can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. And then I'm like, oh wow, I don't know if I want to put that. I don't know if I want to I got to make this investment, and I'm feeling kind of you know, because it's taking me, it takes even me out of my comfort zone. But but the best way is to just, you got to do it, especially when you've asked the questions, you've done the research, you've
planned accordingly.
And is like, what the only thing that's holding you back is just your old mindset. So then the only way to break that up and throw it away is to do it, because once you do it, then you know, it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And that's the other thing, is like, our minds are so powerful. Our minds are so powerful. The thought of something going wrong is way more daunting than what will actually happen when you do it. So that's how we talk ourselves out of doing things, is because we think about it. And then we're like, oh, we almost think about it to the point where we make it real in our heads. And then we won't execute it in real life, because life happens out here. It doesn't happen in here, right? It happens out here. And then we don't do it. And then there's tons of times where I've just like not like done something, like I've been working up to it and putting it off, procrastinating. And then when I finally do it, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have done this sooner. Like, why was I taking so long to do it? It was so whatever. And that is,
and you're like, it wasn't even that bad.
Jeez. It wasn't even that bad. That's what always happens. And anytime I sit down with somebody, or I know someone who sat down with somebody else at the office, usually no fail, the first thing they say is like, I should have done this sooner. Nobody ever says, oh my gosh, that was horrible. Nobody says that.
It's always that, like, dang, I should have just done this from, you know how many times I said that? Like, even, or, oh, I should have gone to the stock market 10 years ago when I was actually seeing a big dip. Oh, I should have got this when I seen a stock split. Like, it's, or I knew I shouldn't have bought that thing, but I wanted to feel good. But now it's just costing a whole lot of interest and just, so we just got to get out of our comfort zone, as you mentioned. And that mind, it's a powerful thing for real.
Honestly, I'm reading the book, I'm reading Power of Now, or listening to it, audiobook. And just stop thinking. We got to just stop thinking, because we think ourselves into situations where, and not be afraid to make mistakes. Like, we touched on that a little bit. It's like, mistakes are going to happen. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. Right. But it's what do you do with that? What did you learn? Because, we all know the stories about people who have tried and failed and failed and failed. And it's not about how many times you fail. It's about how many times you keep
back up.
Get back up and you keep going. And you're not losing. If you only lose if you stay there, you don't lose if you get up and take what you learned and move on. So when people talk about, oh, I've been scammed, or I lost a whole bunch of money in crypto, or, somebody hacked into my account and is like, okay, yeah, that happened. And
so horrible. Now that you've been scammed, what were the things that you did that caused you to get scammed, and how can you do better? Because especially with crypto, even though I'm not fully into it, but I know that it's safe to have like a ledger or a wallet, so no one can get into it per se. But you gotta remember that password.
Yeah, you gotta remember the password. And the same thing, I hear it all the time about life insurance, is that you just have to educate yourself, because there's this old school was, before they had whole life, it was always term. And people thought by having term that they were good. And then you realize that term means that it's for a term. It's not for your whole life. And so just educating yourself on the different types of insurance, and knowing that if you're getting insurance and nobody's asking you about your health and your wellness, and you haven't done some type of assessment and you just sign the dotted line and boom, then that's something that, you have to be vetted up front, and they want to make sure everything is okay on the front end, so that there are no issues when it's time to collect or pay out. And that's just education and educating yourself, because I know from firsthand the experiences that can come from, thinking you have something in place when you're talking about insurance. And then when you go to use it, you're like, what? There's all these things happening. And it's just, you have to recognize what you're dealing with, learn the rules, have a professional sit down with you and explain it to you, and recognize that it is something that is valuable and can be very beneficial if it is used correctly. And that's what we lack. That's what we lack, is the knowledge and the information to use it correctly. And that's how people have been taken advantage of in the past, is because they know that you don't know how to use it correctly. Right. And so, like you were saying from the top, right, is we really have to educate ourselves, or if you're not going to take the time, or don't feel that you have the time to become an expert in these areas, is to have an expert, somebody at the table in your life, in your financial life, that will explain these things to you and help.
Exactly. And also, oh man, I just had it in my head. Also, just ask questions, just same way how you ask questions when you go to the doctors or you go to the dentist and all that stuff. Ask the questions like with life insurance, because and it's not a dog to anyone, but these GoFundMes have to come to an end.
That just like made my heart jump. Yeah, we need to know.
I get it, but at this point in time, we have more knowledge about what is the best suit for you. So just try to educate yourself as much as possible. And we can guarantee two things in life, is death and taxes.
And then there's death tax.
Oh, trust me.
You have to pay taxes after you're gone. Recognize this, people. When somebody passes, depending on where they pass in the year, they still, you have to file their final taxes after they're gone. So like death and taxes, absolutely. And recognize that having somebody, not having life insurance, not having a power of attorney, not having a will, that what type of legacy do you want to leave? Because that really impacts the people who are still here that you leave behind. And that's what cripples generational progression and generational wealth. Because you can have a whole, like I use celebrities sometimes as an example, but I don't want people to think that you need to be, multimillionaires in order to have a will and have life insurance. That's absolutely not true. You just have to have something that you don't want it to go to the government. You don't want the government to have first dibs. That's if you don't want the government to have first dibs in what you built, use your entire life to build that home, that business, or whatever the case may be, and you want it to go into the right hands from jump, then you need to have life insurance, and you need to have a will. You need to have a medical directive. You need to have a power of attorney, because at the end of the day, we're wards of the state. Like we're basically, once you have that social insurance, I can tell that's
you're like, Cam, I could go on for days, and I totally understand. Like, and I know when people hear this, they'll feel overwhelmed.
Yeah,
but it's like baby steps. Like there's kind of certain things like that you need to keep an eye on, and we're not getting any younger as well. So like, if you don't have one, please guys, get one. Find someone. SoJay's here.
I'm here, and I know so many people that this is what they do. Day in, day out. They have the information, they have the knowledge, and recognize no question is too silly. And you have to be ready to ask questions, but then also be ready to answer questions. Because when you go to the doctor, we were using that analogy, you go to the doctor, you're going to ask questions, but the doctor also needs to ask questions in order to assess you. They have to know what you're feeling. Where does it hurt? How long has it been hurting? When did you first notice the pain, and where did it start? Did it move? Like these are the questions that the doctor is going to ask. And so when it comes to your financial life and you're sitting down with a financial professional, they're going to ask almost the same questions, but it's going to be in relations to your
finances. And those are the questions you're going to have some critical thinking, right? And also, what are 3 things you wish you knew about money in the past?
The rule of 72, about interest rates and how they can work for you and against you. I wish I knew that.
Yes.
I wish I knew, and this might be a personal belief, but I feel now, and I would tell anybody this as I'm sharing with you right now, that it doesn't matter what you do for a living. You need to be passionate about what you do. So we hold
on. So when I hear great bars like that, I have to do I have to do it. Let me do it again. Oh my gosh. Yes, you have to be passionate about what you do. Like, I love that one. Sorry, continue. I hope I didn't throw you off. You're like, wait a minute, what's going on?
I appreciate that. I've never had that noise played for me, something I've said. Heard it in clubs and stuff, but so I'm feeling kind of nice right now. Be passionate. And it almost sounds cliche, right? But like it doesn't matter what you do, because at the end, we're all working. We work for a reason, for a purpose, and it's to live our lives the best way that we can. And that's not to pay bills. So whatever it is that you can do in order to generate the currency that you need, as long as you're not breaking the law or whatever, then do that. like then do that. And it's a means to living your best life, not your lot in life, you know? So when we are asking our young people, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I think it should more so be what lifestyle, like what do you want your life to look like when you grow up? And then reverse engineer it. You know, what lifestyle do you want to have? Because if you want to, you know, you want to live in another part of the world and you want to be able to work virtually, and you want to have a 5-bedroom mansion, and these are some of the things that you want, then your aspirations to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant,
IT.
IT professional.
Don't sleep on trades either.
Oh yeah, or don't sleep on them to be something to do, but then also don't recognize that as long as you're trading your time for money, you're limited.
Yes.
So in order to acquire the type of lifestyle, and then that's one person's idea of, you know, living the life. You know, I'm not a materialistic person myself, so I wouldn't be like to, but I want to travel. I want to see the world. I'd like to see every inch of the globe. And I always loved those movies, the Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff like that. It's like having those adventures. And so I would want to do stuff like that. But that takes finance, that takes money, that takes a lot of money, actually. So me being a child and youth counselor is not going to fund that type of lifestyle, right? Sure. So you just not hanging on. Okay, so those were the two things. So there was one more, right? So it was like, what was my first one?
Rule of 72.
Rule of 72. So the power of interest rates. Then the second was, it doesn't matter what you do, just be passionate about it.
Yes.
And then the third thing that I wish I knew, that it's never too late to become knowledgeable, but it's never too early either. Like, I wish I knew what I know now when I was in my teens, even like when I was a little kid, because the amount of money that passes through our hands, you know, that if I had started saving when I was like, you know, 9, 10, 11, like getting allowance, getting gifts from uncles and aunts, or, you know, a birthday money, all those things. If I just started saving that, you know, we'd all be multimillionaires.
And even with, like, I would say I was a saver when I was little. Like, I'd hustle my allowance money to still get my Archie comics. But I wish, like, investing in it was totally an option. And that's why, like, right now I strive to like work with youth and then teach them about it, because they're the future, right? I'm not saying I'm all but it's great to be able to look at the teens or preteens, or even the individuals in their 20s, early 20s, and then just show them, like, listen, you have time. And if you just like check on like what we've done, you would know that once you reach our age, that you're going to be well off.
Yeah, you could be set. Then you can do whatever you want, right? You don't feel like you have to go to some job.
Exactly.
You can be creative. You can, you know, solve problems. You can, you know, you have your brain and your mental capacity is freed up to do whatever it is that you want to do. And that is like, that's like enlightenment, right? Is to just be open to, and not have to focus on like the essentials of life, you know, to food and shelter. And when you don't have to grind like that and don't have to worry about those things, I'm at the capacity and the potential, the possibilities, right? And I think that is what is intended. That was what was intended, instead of us being these cogs in wheels to fund other people's dreams and other people's growth
Aspirations.
and
Growth.
aspirations. Yeah.
And the one thing I say when it comes to, like, especially because remember, it is financial literacy month, right? So try to learn something new every week or day. Try to figure ways not to be in the rat race of life and busting your balls just to get $1, but find ways to like utilize the money that you have and make it work for you. So when you're gone to sleep, you're not worried and everything. And yeah. What's another thing?
The other thing I wanted to say is just to not be afraid of like, sometimes people are like, oh, you know, well, I only make this much in it, and then it all goes out to paying bills or whatever. It's like, you need to pay yourself first, and recognize that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other things you have to do for the month. You get your paycheck. The first thing you do is you take 10%, at least. You take 10% away. Now you're operating with the 90%. Now that 90% becomes your 100%. This is, you don't even factor this into the equation. And it doesn't matter how much money you're making or how little you feel you are making. You always do it. If you only make $1, you take 10 cents put it aside, and do that as often as you can. And put it into a vehicle or put it somewhere until you get enough where you can accumulate it to a point where you can put it into something that has a real high interest rate of return, not
real.
A real. That means it's not going to be with a bank. It's not going to be with it's not going to be with one of the banks. And, you know, not dogging any of the banks. They fit a purpose, but growing your money is not one of those purposes.
Exactly. They are not your friends. I see it all the time. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I feel like every episode, that is one thing. Pay yourself first, because you're the most important bill. Because when you're dead and gone, those bills won't matter, but your bill that you have to leave it to next generation stuff is what will matter.
That's what's going to, And those bill collectors, they're not coming to help support your family.
Oh my gosh, we're so sorry. Do you want us to cancel it? And like, you think like, let me tell you. And oh man, SoJay, you are giving me so much. Like, I'm glad I connected with you like that day, and just like staying in contact. And what are other avenues? I just should put you on the spot and make you do a little song, but I won't. Unless you want to. That'd be a really great episode. But no pressure.
That's one of my rules for myself, and it's like, keep the promises you make to yourself. That's another thing, is like, anytime somebody asks me, if you're gonna ask me to sing, then I will. That was always from back in the day, you know, because you never know who's asking, right?
Sure.
And you never know who's listening. So there's that. And then other things that, like what's coming up and what am I working on?
Yes, because I know you have this lovely book.
Right.
And because I heard there's one in Brampton that's opening up. So perhaps, or just
like
the great stuff.
Like a Black owned. I heard at the Grammarly City Center. I think it's a different brand though. It's not the same.
Okay.
The same Black owned, but like, that doesn't matter. Like, I'm loving that these entrepreneurs are, you know, being bold and going into these spaces that otherwise just would not have, you know, back in the day, they just wouldn't even give this concept a chance, right?
True.
So that's amazing. So there's the book that you have, and then I also have this one. This is the new one. And
Nice.
you'll see there it says mindset, money matters. Ooh,
Mindset, money. See
mm,
it, and I once again, folks, like when it comes to your mindset, it has to do with your mental and finances, and you have to figure out how to intertwine them. And there's good days we fall off, but it's okay. Just jump back on, put on a
yeah.
seatbelt if you have to, and push through, right?
Mm.
And is there anything else? Because I kind of interrupted.
Thank you. Well, I'm just pushing the books, I want to, and then having more conversations like this, doing speaking engagements. And when I say pushing the books, it's meaning like wanting other people to experience the affirmations and the imagery and the connection between the affirmations and the imagery and the mindfulness and the intention and like the care that was put into creating these books, and having, like I said, more conversations like this, doing speaking engagements, and then dabbling, getting more into investing for myself, but then also assisting others and sharing that as well. So and being in a position to employ people, like to help other businesses grow. I work with for my e-commerce platform, I work with a company called Commerce Queens, Black-owned, female-led organization, and they're doing their thing. And then Divine Executive, that company helps me out with my social media and a bunch of different things too. Another female Black-led business. It's local too. So keeping our dollars circulating, that's what I'm wanting to do and to support that. And so those are my projects, the coloring book, Soulful Colour, and then adding to the brand, I'm going to write a book of poetry and affirmations and stuff like that, because from my songwriting background. So just creating my own diversification with regards to my portfolio and income and creating a legacy, right?
That's what it's about.
A brand, I want to be I'm like want Jackson to be like Johnson and Johnson, or to be like whatever, one of those names, the names that are associated with these brands that are recognized across the globe. My goal is to have Soulful Colour be one of those.
All in due time. See, and I love that. And so you guys heard it first. There's a book.
Yeah, I've never said that before. Actually, I've never said that out loud.
So when you manifest things and you put into the universe, it's only time that it's fruitions into the world. So I'm definitely gonna check up on you.
Okay, and as many people as I can to for them to realize their dreams. That's how I can help. Like that's part of my dream and my goals is to help others to do the same, right?
Exactly. And SoJay, how are people able to find you?
Well, on my Instagram, there's a Soulful Colour Instagram, and it's spelled just like that, Soulful Colour, and then Sojaysoul for my other page. And if you go, yeah, that's fine. And then soulfulcolour.com as well. But I think Instagram is like one of the best ways to contact me. And then Soulful Colour at Gmail, or soulful.colour@gmail.com for my email. But if you go to the website,
you'll see it all there. I will definitely put it in the description and all that great stuff. Is there anything last that you'd want to tell the folks? Or I can say one of your sayings. There's one that hold on, there's one I just saw it. I'm getting to it.
There's like you were asking about singing. There's a song that I wrote called Boulevard of Dreams, and a line just came in my head that I think would be relevant to what we're talking about.
Yes.
And it goes, when you're feeling blue, just come on, do what we do. When you're feeling blue, just come on, do what we do. Forget about the 9 to 5. Free your mind. Relax and unwind. Yeah. So that's from Boulevard of Dreams. So that's what I was thinking. It's like, just free your mind. Free your mind from the monotony. Thank you. From the status quo, from the grind. And that's what I would say, is just to be open to possibilities and live into those possibilities and take action. There's like, knowledge is not, I know we say that phrase, knowledge is power, but knowledge unutilized is knowledge utilized is power. So we can talk about things till we're blue in the face. I would do it. We've done it for an hour and whatever. We can talk about, then the action has to go behind it, and to take, taking action. Definitely, you got to take action, and you got to push past your comfort zone in order to take action. And if you need to do that, then just do it.
Just do it. And take action, execute. That is like my new saying these days, because in order for you to see the risk that you take to actually be successful, you gotta execute. You gotta, that's it. And I'm actually hyped because it's the first time I got a song on the episodes. I'm really blessed. Like, what? I'm just so like this new, I guess we could say new season, because 53rd episode, and we get a song too. What? So I'm so blessed for that. And SoJay, thank you so much for taking the time. My dog is complaining and all that good stuff, but it was a pleasure. Like, everything the gems are beautiful, and I actually do want to say the one that I did see it again. Find ways to feed your soul. I like that one. Find ways to free your soul. And folks, it's about financial literacy. Hold on. Financial literacy is about just finding ways to reprogram yourself, to build a team, or to build with the community that you have, and to flourish, and generational wealth.
Yes.
That's the point of all this, right? And thank you so much for coming. Gonna do the outro before this dog goes crazy and all that good stuff. See, he wants to sing too, but he can't. He wants to sing too. So folks, thank you for listening. And thank you so much. Hold on, give me a second. Usually I have it, but him barking threw me off. There we go. Anyway, got all fame music. Flux, money, literacy books. Flux, money, literacy books. Flux, money, literacy books. Anyway, job. Flux, money, literacy books. Fitness in our blood because we're working via class. Flux, money, literacy books. Yeah, talking about it. Flux, money, literacy books. Fitness in our blood because we're working via class. Money, literacy books.